Hello and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the brand new podcast dedicated to the stats and facts of the WSL. I'm your host, Sam Bicarino, although some of you might know me as Statorino. This is the first in a mini-series looking back at some of the main talking points of the 23-24 season. As it's the first episode, I'm going to start with the biggest story, Chelsea's title win. I'm going to be taking a deep dive and see where they got the edge over their title rivals, Man City. Hello, yes, and welcome to Decoding the WSL. Now, I said in the intro there, it's a brand new podcast, and that will never be more true than it is today, because this is the first episode I'm recording of Decoding the WSL. I'm your host, Sam Bicarino, although most of you will probably know me on social media as Statorino. I am, as far as I'm aware, the only WSL Stato that is on social media. This season, I'm trying to branch out a bit. I've been a guest on a few podcasts, but now I'm launching my own. I will be with you every week or so. We'll be looking back at what's just happened in the WSL, as well as looking forward to the next week. Sometimes it will just be me. Sometimes I'm going to have guests on the pod. And while there will be discussions about, tactics and rumors and those sort of things, hopefully the selling point of this podcast is the stats, the facts, the numbers, those sort of things. So if that's your jam, this is going to be the podcast for you. Anyway, that's enough about me and about the pod. Let's get into today's episode and discuss how Chelsea won the league. Title race last season was nothing short of brilliant. Both Man City and Chelsea finished the league with a staggering 52 points from a possible 66, highlighting the immense quality on display for both sides. Chelsea, however, boasted an almost impenetrable home record, claiming 30 points from a possible 33. Only blemish on that home record was a 1-0 defeat that came against Man City, showcasing the tight competition between the two giants. City, on the other hand, earned an almost perfect 30 points on the road. While both teams displayed incredible consistency throughout the season, there was one key metric that ultimately separated them: goal difference. Chelsea possessed a remarkable plus 53, winning by an average of 2.4 per match, showing their clinical attacking prowess and a solid defence. City, although impressive with a plus 46 goal difference, 2.1 per match on average, they couldn't quite match Chelsea in this crucial area that ultimately lost them the title. Now, the first thing I want to dive into is the way that Chelsea and Man City distributed their goals, because they did it in very different ways, and I found it quite interesting. City relied heavily on Bunny Shaw. She scored 21 goals, which was just over a third of City's total. Obviously, Shaw's injury towards the end of the season meant she missed the last 3.5 matches, which is quite a lot when you're so reliant on one player. One of the matches missed was also the 2-1 home defeat to Arsenal, so just one more goal there and City could have won it on points. That was when Stina Blackstenius scored twice in the dying minutes to win it for Arsenal. As well as Shaw, Lauren Hemp scored 11, which was 18% of the total. That means over 50% of City's goals last season were scored by just 2 players. The remaining 26 goals were scored by 9 players. In contrast, Chelsea's success wasn't built on the shoulders of 1 or 2 star attackers. Lauren James was Chelsea's top scorer on 13, meaning she scored 18% of Chelsea's goals, and Aggie Beever-Jones was second on 11, which was 15%. While James and Beever-Jones topped the list, their goals were distributed among a much larger group. Remarkably, 19 different players found the net for Chelsea throughout the season, demonstrating a really diverse attacking threat. Looking beyond the goals themselves, the statistics reveal a deeper story. Chelsea created significantly more chances than they conceded, which is reflected in their higher expected goals figures and also their higher expected goal difference. Chelsea's XG was 11.1 higher than Man City's, and their XG conceded was only 1.4 more. That 9.8 difference over Man City indicated they're getting a lot more high-quality chances without giving up too much to the opposition. Another key factor in Chelsea's title win was their impressive squad depth. They utilised a total of 28 players throughout the season, showcasing Emma Hayes' ability to rotate effectively without sacrificing performance. She obviously keeps the players motivated, and also has the players to keep motivated. The quality throughout the squad is brilliant, which I think anyone can see just looking at Chelsea's squad. It was particularly evident when comparing them to other teams. The only team that used more players than Chelsea were Bristol City. They used 30. I've already spoken about how Bunny Shaw scored 21 goals, which was 8 more than any Chelsea player did, Lauren James getting 13. But Chelsea scored more goals overall, so were Chelsea getting a better output per minute per player? Well, to look at this sort of thing, I want to dive into something called frequency stats. These are the sort of ones that you've probably seen, and they're something per 90, or they might be minutes per goal, that sort of thing. They're really good for measuring a player's output on the pitch. Interestingly, Chelsea have had several players ranking highly in a lot of important metrics. This suggests that their squad is consistent with contributions across the board, rather than relying on a few standout performers in a smaller squad like Man City did. Now, the sort of people that enjoy stats are going to enjoy the next minute or so, because I'm just going to read out some of the frequency stats where Chelsea performed really high. So for minutes per goal, Chelsea had 5 of the 12 best players in the league. That is, of the players that have scored 4 or more goals. They also had the top 4 players for minutes per assist and 6 of the top 8. These two stats combined show that they then had 4 out of the 6 top players for minutes per goal involvement. That is, the players that had at least 5 goal involvements. We've already spoken about Chelsea's high XG, so it's probably not a surprise that they had 4 of the 7 top players XG per 90 minutes. Looking at some of the other metrics that aren't just to do with goal scoring, they also had 6 of the top 13 players for minutes per pass, and 5 of the top 11 for minutes per touch. Basically, for pretty much any important metric in a game of football, Chelsea had some of the best players performing it. So, in conclusion, Chelsea's WSL title win 23-24 was created by a distributed attack, some really good underlying numbers, very, very strong squad depth. Their triumph serves as a testament to the team, and Emma Hayes got to bow out in glory as she hoped. Now, before I wrap it up, I just want to remind everyone that Decoding the WSL is a brand new podcast, and we're always looking for ways to grow and improve. If you enjoyed this episode and you think others might too, please consider leaving us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, as it really helps people find the show. Every bit of support helps us reach more listeners and continue to bring more interesting discussions about the WSL. Also, you can find me on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Statorino. That's it for today's data-driven deep dive in the WSL. Thanks for listening. Join me next time on Decoding the WSL.